Dart skill presents adding and subtracting. You already know how to add positive numbers. There's no prize guessing that 6 plus 8 is equal to 14. But what if I were to ask you to do, let's say, negative 6 minus 8? Or for that matter, 6 minus negative 8? Or let's say negative 6 plus negative 8. In this video, we are going to try and answer these questions. The first step is to get rid of the parentheses by applying the rules. When you have a positive outside a parentheses, followed by a positive inside a parentheses, followed by a number, of course, like a 5 or 8 or whatever, you can get rid of the parentheses and the two positives combine to give you one single positive. Similarly, if you have a negative outside a parentheses and a negative inside, as in this example, you can get rid of the parentheses and replace the two negatives with one single positive. But if you have a positive outside and a negative inside, as in this one, or a negative outside and a positive inside, they both combine to give you negatives. The bottom line is, if you see the same sign outside a parentheses as inside, you can combine them to write a positive. On the other hand, if you see opposite signs outside the parentheses and inside, they combine to give you a negative. And after you have got rid of the parentheses and come up with a form like this, all you want to do is add up the positives together and add up the negatives together, see whichever is bigger in number, the numerical value, and that determines the sign of the answer that you have, positive or negative, and whichever group is bigger, positive or negative, minus the other group gives you the numerical part of the answer. Let's see a few examples at work. Let's say we want to simplify or find the numerical value of negative 5 plus negative 8 minus negative 10 minus 2. So our first job is to get rid of the two parentheses that we see using the rules as stated. The positive and the negative combine to give you a negative, so we write one single negative here, followed by that 8. Similarly, these two combine to give you one single positive, followed by the 10. And we have a minus 2, we have a negative 5. So we have a negative 5, a negative 8, and a negative 2. So if you take their numerical values, 5 plus 8 plus 2, that's 15. So the negative is 15 and the positive is 10. So we know that the answer is going to be negative because the negatives are heavier than the positives. But negative how much? Negative, the difference of 15 and 10 is 5. Therefore the answer is negative 5. As easy as that. Let's try another one. How about 4 minus positive 8 plus negative 8 minus negative 10 plus 16. Now this is going to be equal to, as always, our first job is to open up the parentheses. These two combine to give you a negative minus 8. A negative for these two, so we have another minus 8 again. Note that minus positive 8 and plus negative 8 are exactly the same things. And finally, if you combine these two, a negative with a negative, you have a positive 10 plus 16. If you look at the negatives, you have a negative 8 and another negative 8. So the negatives add up to 16. And how about the positives? There's a 4 here, there's a 10 here, there's a 16 here. And they add up to 30. And the final answer is 30 minus 16, which is 14. are positive 14. Note that if a number is positive, we may or may not write the sign. If there is no sign, it indicates positive. And before we conclude the video, let's go back and try and answer the questions that we raised right at the beginning of the video. Negative 6, minus 8, both negatives. So the answer is going to be negative. How much negative? There's no positive, therefore 6 plus 8 is 14. The answer is negative 14. On this one, you combine these two signs to get a positive. Therefore the problem is exactly the same as the first one, 6 plus 8. And the answer is 14, or a positive 14. And finally, the plus and the minus over here combine to give you a minus or a negative, and therefore we have a negative 6 minus 8, exactly like this one. The answer is negative 14.